Welcome to Critical IT Solutions podcast series, where technology leadership meets innovation. Join us as we explore the ideas shaping modern IT, from cybersecurity to quantum computing and everything in between.
Choosing the wrong managed service provider costs businesses an average of $47,000 in hidden fees, service gaps, and emergency migrations. Not from a cyber attack, not from a system failure, just from picking the wrong IT partner. Today, we're getting into why small and mid-sized companies need to stop treating their MSP decision like a line item and start treating it like a strategic investment. By the end of this episode, you'll understand what MSPs actually do beyond fixing your Wi-Fi, why the financial stakes of this decision are way higher than most business owners realize, and what separates a good MSP hire from a costly mistake. I've got someone here who's been deep in this space, so let's get right into it. When most small business owners hear managed service provider, what are they actually picturing?
They're picturing the IT guy who shows up when something breaks. And that's the fundamental misunderstanding that costs companies so much money.
Right, the break and fix model.
Exactly. And there's actually a name for that. It's literally called the break and fix model. Something breaks, you call someone, they fix it, you pay them. That's reactive. What a modern MSP does is fundamentally different. It's proactive oversight of your systems around the clock, catching problems before they become disasters.
So it's less like calling a plumber when your pipe bursts and more like having someone inspect your pipes every week.
That's a really good way to put it. And the financial difference between those two approaches is enormous. According to Charles IT, MSPs typically operate on what's called a 5 nines uptime standard. That's 99.999% availability. In practice, that translates to roughly 5 minutes of downtime per year.
5 minutes per year.
5 minutes per year. Now, compare that to a business running on a break-and-fix model that might experience an hour of downtime every month. And here's where it gets real. Statista's research found that the average cost of downtime per hour for a significant portion of businesses worldwide is anywhere from $301,000 to $400,000.
Wait, $301,000 to $400,000 per hour of downtime?
Per hour. And Infrascale's 2025 research puts it even more starkly. Businesses lose up to $5,600 per minute due to IT downtime. So when a small business owner looks at an MSP contract and thinks that's expensive, they're not doing the full math.
They're comparing the MSP fee to zero instead of comparing it to what downtime actually costs them.
Precisely. And that's the expense mindset versus the investment mindset. An expense is something you pay and it's gone. An investment is something that returns value, and preventing even one serious downtime event can pay for months of MSP service.
Let's back up a little, though, because I think it's worth grounding people in the scale of who we're actually talking about here. Like, how big is the SMB world?
It's massive. The Small Business Administration estimates that 9 out of 10 U.S. companies qualify as small. TeamLogic IT puts the numbers at more than 33 million SMBs in the U.S. alone, employing nearly 62 million people.
So this isn't a niche conversation. This is the backbone of the economy.
Exactly. And these businesses are already spending more on technology. Studies show SMBs are increasing their tech spending at about 10% annually. The question isn't whether they're investing in technology, it's whether they're investing in it smartly.
And that's where the MSP decision becomes so critical, because you can spend money on technology and still be completely exposed if you don't have the right people managing it.
That's the trap. And mid-sized companies are in a particularly awkward spot. Dataprise describes it really well. They're large enough to need professional IT operations and strong cybersecurity, but not large enough to maintain a fully staffed department with senior-level specialists. They're caught in the middle.
Too big to wing it, too small to build it themselves.
Exactly. And that's where the right MSP becomes a genuine competitive equalizer. You get access to a full team of specialists, cloud architects, cybersecurity experts, compliance professionals, without paying full-time salaries for all of them.
There's also a financial structure angle here that I think gets overlooked. It's not just about what you get, it's about how you pay for it, right?
Yes, and this is actually a really important point. Synoptech breaks this down well. MSPs allow organizations to shift their IT spending from a CapEx model to an OpEx model.
For people who aren't finance people, what does that actually mean in practice?
So CapEx is capital expenditure, big upfront purchases. You buy servers, you buy software licenses, you build infrastructure. That requires large chunks of cash, long approval processes, and it ties up your budget in assets that become outdated fast. OpEx is operating expense, a predictable monthly payment. Hardware, software, and service costs get bundled into one contract.
So instead of a $200,000 infrastructure purchase that's obsolete in 3 years, you're paying a manageable monthly fee that scales with your business.
And that predictability matters enormously for small businesses. Synoptech points out that the traditional CapEx approach involves lengthy approval processes, difficulty assessing value, and resource constraints that can lead to cost overruns. The MSP model sideskips all of that.
Okay, so we've established what MSPs do and why the financial model makes sense. But I want to get into the strategic layer because I think a lot of people still think of MSPs as just IT support. What are they actually doing for SMBs beyond keeping the lights on?
This is where it gets really interesting. Modern MSPs are providing strategic guidance across areas that used to be exclusively enterprise territory. Things like identity management, endpoint security, zero trust architecture.
Zero trust, I've heard that term a lot. What does it actually mean for a small business?
So, zero trust is a security philosophy. The idea is that you never automatically trust anyone or anything inside or outside your network. You verify everything, continuously. Mobile Mentor describes it as verify explicitly with continuous risk-based access evaluation, use least privilege access, and assume breach. Basically, you design your systems as if attackers are already inside.
That sounds like something only a Fortune 500 company would need.
That's the assumption most SMBs make, and it's exactly why they're increasingly targeted. Attackers know small businesses have weaker defenses. And there's a phrase circulating in cybersecurity right now: identity is the new perimeter. Your login credentials, your access controls, that's where attacks begin. MSPs are helping SMBs build these defenses that used to be out of reach.
And the market data backs up that this is becoming a real priority. What are the numbers looking like on the managed services side?
The Canalys report cited by Temis Networks is pretty striking. Total managed services revenue through the channel is projected to reach $595 billion by the end of 2025. And cybersecurity managed services specifically are growing at 15% just in 2025 alone.
So the market is essentially voting with its dollars that this is the direction things are going.
Massively. And it makes sense when you look at what's driving it. Cloud adoption has made IT environments way more complex. Businesses are running multiple SaaS tools, cloud platforms, security layers, all requiring continuous monitoring. For most SMBs, partnering with an MSP is simply the most efficient way to manage that complexity.
I want to bring up something that I think is the elephant in the room here, though, because we've been making the case for MSPs, but there's a real risk on the other side of this decision too: picking the wrong MSP.
This is so important, and it doesn't get talked about enough.
Because that $47,000 number we opened with, that's not the cost of not having an MSP, that's the cost of having the wrong one.
Right. ClearFuse analyzed MSP selection processes from over 200 companies across healthcare, finance, and manufacturing, and found that choosing the wrong provider costs businesses an average of $47,000 in hidden fees, service gaps, and emergency migrations. That's a real number from real companies.
So the argument isn't just get an MSP, it's get the right MSP. And those are very different conversations.
Completely different. And what ClearFuse found is that the difference between successful and failed MSP partnerships comes down to systematic evaluation. Things like provider expertise, service level agreements, scalability planning, security frameworks, and total cost structures. It's not just about who's cheapest.
And I think that's where a lot of SMBs go wrong. They treat the MSP selection like any other vendor procurement. Lowest bid wins.
And that's the expense mindset showing up again. If you think of it as a cost to minimize, you optimize for price. If you think of it as an investment, you optimize for return. Those lead to completely different decisions.
There's also something interesting about the trust dimension here, because an MSP isn't just handling your IT tickets, they're handling sensitive data, critical systems, strategic business information.
Temis Networks makes this point really well. The MSP relationship goes beyond a transaction. SMBs are tapping into knowledge and resources that are otherwise out of reach. But that means the MSP has to be a genuine partner, not just a vendor. They need to understand your business, communicate clearly, and demonstrate value in terms you can actually measure.
And from the MSP side, what does a good partnership actually look like? Like, what should businesses be expecting from a quality provider?
Proactive support is the big one, going beyond reactive problem solving to offer strategic guidance. Timus Networks specifically calls this out as what separates a great MSP from a mediocre one. You want someone who's thinking about your IT roadmap 6 months from now, not just responding to your tickets today.
And scalability matters too, right? Because a small business today might be a mid-sized business in 2 years.
That's one of the most underrated benefits. DataPrize points out that as you expand, merge, or open new locations, an outsourced IT team can scale without the long hiring cycles or disruption that internal teams face. You just adjust your service level. Compare that to hiring, recruiting, onboarding, training, every time your business grows.
And according to a Manpower Group poll, 77% of employers already face difficulties finding talent with the necessary skills. So, even if you wanted to build an internal IT team, the talent market is brutal right now.
That's a huge factor. And it's not just about finding people, it's about retaining them. IT specialists with advanced skills are expensive and in high demand. An MSP gives you access to that expertise without the retention risk.
So you're essentially getting a full bench of specialists, cloud architects, security experts, compliance people for a fraction of what it would cost to hire them individually.
And they're available 24/7. That's the other thing people underestimate. Your internal IT person takes sick days, vacation, has a life. An MSP's Network Operations Center, what Charles IT describes as basically mission control for every device and application your employees use, that's monitoring your systems around the clock.
Okay, I want to zoom out for a second because I think there's a bigger picture here about what this decision signals about how a company thinks about itself.
Say more about that.
Like, analysts project that companies will invest more than $4 trillion in technology-driven business transformations by the end of this decade, according to TeamLogic IT. That's a signal that digital maturity is now the foundation for resilience and competitive viability. So when a small business treats IT as an afterthought, they're not just making a tech decision, they're making a strategic decision about whether they want to compete.
That's exactly right. And the businesses that are winning right now are the ones that recognize digital maturity as a competitive advantage, not just a cost of doing business. An MSP is one of the most accessible ways for an SMB to close that gap with larger competitors.
There's also the compliance angle that I think gets overlooked, especially for businesses in regulated industries.
Huge. Healthcare, financial services, legal, these industries have strict controls. DataPrize points out that outsourced IT helps mid-sized businesses meet regulatory requirements, maintain documentation, pass audits, and reduce breach risk. And that's especially valuable when internal teams don't have compliance expertise, which most don't.
So a compliance failure isn't just a fine, it's a reputational hit, potential legal exposure, loss of customer trust.
All of the above. And again, the MSP is absorbing that risk and expertise on your behalf. That's value that doesn't show up on a simple cost comparison spreadsheet.
Let me push back on one thing though, because I can hear a small business owner saying, okay, all of this sounds great, but I genuinely don't have the budget for a premium MSP right now. Is this conversation even relevant to them?
It's a fair pushback. And the honest answer is the math still works in their favor. ClearFuse's data shows companies typically consider MSP partnerships when internal IT costs exceed $15,000 to $20,000 monthly, or when downtime costs reach $5,000 or more per incident. If you're hitting either of those thresholds, you're already spending MSP money, just less efficiently.
So the question isn't, can I afford an MSP? It's, can I afford not to have one?
And the MSP model is also inherently scalable. You're not locked into an enterprise-level contract from day one. The services scale with your business and adapt to your needs without skyrocketing in price, as AE Technology Group puts it. You start where you are and grow from there.
So when you step back from everything we've covered today, here's what this really comes down to. The framing of this decision matters as much as the decision itself.
That's the core of it. If you walk into an MSP conversation asking, how do I minimize this cost? You will make a different and likely worse decision than if you ask, how do I maximize the return on this investment? The expense mindset optimizes for the wrong thing.
And the stakes of getting it wrong are real. We're talking about $47,000 in losses from a bad MSP selection, $5,600 per minute in downtime costs, and a talent market where 77% of employers can't find the IT skills they need internally. Those aren't abstract risks.
And on the flip side, the upside is equally concrete. Predictable costs instead of surprise emergencies. 24/7 monitoring instead of hoping nothing breaks on a Friday night. Access to senior-level expertise in cybersecurity, cloud, and compliance without the full-time salary. and a partner who's thinking about your IT roadmap, not just your current tickets.
The market is clearly moving in this direction too. $595 billion in managed services revenue by end of 2025. Cybersecurity managed services growing 15% in a single year. The businesses that are thriving are already making this shift.
And the ones that are still treating IT as a reactive cost center are going to feel that gap widen. Digital maturity is now the foundation for resilience and competitive viability. That's not a tech industry talking point. That's what business leaders worldwide are recognizing.
So here's the actionable takeaway. If you're a small or mid-sized business owner, the first question to ask isn't what does an MSP cost? It's what is my current IT situation actually costing me? In downtime, in security exposure, in the time your team spends on IT problems instead of your core business.
And then evaluate MSPs the way you'd evaluate any strategic partner, not just on price, but on expertise, scalability, security frameworks, and whether they genuinely understand your business. Because the right MSP isn't a vendor, they're a growth partner.
Remember that $47,000 number we opened with? That's what the wrong MSP costs you. The right one, that's what keeps you from losing $5,600 a minute when things go sideways. The investment isn't in the MSP, it's in your business's ability to keep running, keep growing, and keep competing. Thanks for being here on Copilot Podcasts. Go make the smarter call.